Asiagristus splendens. 2. The Tana wild onion Allium polyrypsum is the main browse eaten by many herd animals, and Mongolians claim that this is essential in producing the proper, hazelnut-like notes of camoero, fermented milk. The vast desert is crisscrossed by several trade routes, some of which have been in use for thousands of years. Among the most important are those from Kulgan, at the Great Wall, to Ulaanbaatar, 960 km, 597 mi, from Jukwon, in Gansu, to Hami 670 km, 416 mi, from Hami to Beijing, 2000 km, 1243 mi, from Hoho to Hami and Barkal, and from Lanzhou, in Gansu, to Hami. 2. Alashan Plateau semi-desert. Alksa left banner. Inner Mongolia, China. The southwestern portion of the Gobi, known also as the Zidao and Little Gobi, fills the space between the Great North Loop of the Yellow River on the east, the Ajin River on the west, and the Chilean Mountains and narrow rocky chain of Longshan, 3,200 to 3,500 m, 10,500 to 11,500 feet, in altitude, on the southwest. The Ordos Desert, which covers the northeastern portion of the Ordos Plateau in the Great North Loop of the Yellow River, is part of this ecoregion. It belongs to the middle basin of the three Great Depressions in Tohikpatan and divides the Gobi as a whole. 2. Topographically, says Nikolai Pativolsky, it is a perfectly level plain, which in all probability once formed the bed of a huge lake or inland sea. He concludes this based on the level area of the region as whole, the hard saline clay and the sand-strewn surface and, lastly, the salt lakes which occupy its lowest parts. For hundreds of kilometers, nothing can be seen but bare sands. In some places, they continue so far without a break that the Mongols call them tenga, i.e. sky. These vast expanses are absolutely waterless, nor do any oases relieve the unbroken stretches of yellow sand, which alternate with equally vast areas of saline clay or, nearer the foot of the mountains, with barren shingle. Although on the whole a level country with a general altitude of 1,000 to 1,500 m, 3,300 to 4,900 feet, this section, like most other parts of the Gobi, is crowned by a network of hills and broken ranges of at least 300 m in elevation. The vegetation is confined to a few varieties of bushes and a dozen kinds of grasses and herbs, the most conspicuous being Saxaul, Haloxylonum dendron, and Agriophyllum gobicum. The others include Prickly convolvulus field wormwood, Artemisia campestris, Acacia, Inula ammophila, Cyphera flavescens, Convolvulusamanii, Peganum and Astragalus species, but all dwarfed, deformed and staffed. The fauna consists of little but antelope, wolf, fox, hare, hedgehog, marten, numerous lizards and a few birds, for example the sand grouse, lark, stone chat, sparrow, crane, Mongolian ground jay, Podoces hendersoni, horned lark, Eremophila alpistris, and crested lark, Galerida cristata. 2. Zungarian Basin semi-desert. The structure here is that of the mighty Tian Shan, or Heavenly Mountains, running from west to east. It divides the northern one-third of Sinkian from the southern two-thirds. On the northern side, rivers formed from the snow and glaciers of the high mountains break through barren foothill ranges and flow out into an immense, hollow plain. Here the rivers begin to straggle and fan out, and form great marshes with dense reed beds. Westerners call this terrain Zungarian Desert. The Chinese also call it a desert, but the Mongols call it a Gobi, that is, a land of thin herbage, more suitable for camels than for cows, but capable also, if herds are kept small and moved frequently, of sustaining horses, sheep, and goats. The herbage comprises a high proportion of woody, fragrant plants. Gobi mutton is the most aromatic in fuel. 20. The Yildiz Valley or Valley of the Haydakgul, 43° N 83° E 43° N 86° E, is a mini-desert enclosed by two prominent members of the Shinashan Trayanosh mountain range, namely the Chusis and the Krisanat pine valleys, running perpendicular and far from one another. As they proceed south, they transcend and transpose, sweeping back on east and west respectively, with Lake Boston in between. These two ranges mark the northern and the southern edges respectively of a great swelling, which extends eastward for nearly 20 degrees of longitude. On its northern side, the Kolta descends steeply, and its foot is fringed by a string of deep depressions, ranging from Lubkin, 130 m, 427 feet, below sea level, to Hami, 850 m, 2,789 feet, above sea level. To the south of the Kurukta lie the desert of Lopna, the Kumta Desert, and the valley of the Bulanzagul. To this great swelling, which arches up between the two border ranges of the Kolta and Kurukta, the Mongols give the name of Gashuan Gobi or Salt Desert. It is some 130 to 160 kilometers, 81 to 99 mi, across from north to south, and is traversed by a number of minor parallel ranges, ridges and chains of hills. Down its middle runs a broad stony valley, 40 to 80 kilometers, 25 to 50 mi, wide, at an elevation of 900 to 1,370 m, 2,950 to 4,490 feet. The Kolta, which reaches an average altitude of 1,800 m, 5,900 feet, is absolutely sterile, and its northern foot rests upon a narrow belt of barren sand, which leads down to the depressions mentioned above. 2. The Kurukta is the greatly disintegrated, denuded and wasted relic of a mountain range which used tope of incomparably greater magnitude. In the west, between Lake Boston and the Tarim, it consists of two, possibly of three, principal ranges, which, although broken in continuity, run generally parallel to one another, and embrace between them numerous minor chains of heights. These minor ranges, together with principal ranges, divide the region into a series of long, narrow valleys, mostly parallel to one another and to the enclosing mountain chains, which descend like terraced steps, on the one side towards the depression of Lubkin and on the other towards the desert of Lop. 2. In many cases these latitudinal valleys are barred transversely by ridges or spurs, generally elevations en masse of the bottom of the valley. Where such elevations exist, there is generally found, on the east side of transverse ridge, a cauldron-shaped depression, which some time or other has been the bottom of a former lake, but is now nearly a dry salt basin. The surface configuration is in fact markedly similar to that which occurs in the intermount latitudinal valleys of the Kunlun Mountains. The hydrography of the Hashan Gobi and the Kurukta is determined by the aforementioned arrangements of the latitudinal valleys. Most of the principal streams, instead of flowing straight down these valleys, cross them diagonally and only turn west after they have cut their way through one or more of the transverse barrier ranges. 2. To the highest range on the great swelling Grigori Grump Shimelo gives the name of Tujto, its altitude being 2,700 m, 8,858 feet, above the level of the sea and some 1,200 m, 3,937 feet, above the crown of swelling itself. This range he considers to belong to the Cholta system, whereas Sven Hedin will assign it to the Kurukta. This last, which is pretty certainly identical with the range of Karatkanula, also known as the Kyzyl Singa, Sinya, and Singer Mountains, that overlooks the southern shore of the Lake Boston, though parted from it by the drift sand desert of Akbelkam, White Pass Sands, has at first northwest to east-southeast strike, but it gradually curves round like a scimitar towards the east-northeast and at the same time gradually decreases in elevation. 2. At 91 degrees east, where the principal range of the Kurukta system wheels to the east-northeast, 4 of its subsidiary ranges terminate, or rather die away somewhat suddenly, on the brink of a long narrow depression, in which Svenhedin sees a northeast bay of the former Great Central Asian Lake of Lop Nor, having over against them the echelon terminals of similar subordinate ranges of the Paishan, Boisan, system, see below. The Kurukta is throughout a relatively low, but almost completely barren range, being entirely destitute of animal life, save for hares, antelopes and wild camels, which frequent its widely scattered oases. The vegetation, which is confined to these same areas, is of the scantiest and is mainly confined to bushes of saxaul, haloxylon, anabasis, reeds, camish, tamarisks, poplars, and ephedra. 2. History. European exploration. The Gobi had a long history of human habitation, mostly by nomadic peoples. The name of Gobi means desert in Mongolian. The region was inhabited mostly by Mongols, Uyghurs, and Kazakhs. The Gobi Desert as a whole was known only very imperfectly to outsiders, as information was confined to observations by individual travelers engaging in their respective itineraries across the desert. Among the European explorers who contributed to the understanding of the Gobi, the most important were following Sad Smiley II, Jean-François Gerbilin, 1688-1698. Eberhardis Brandeis, 1692-1694. Lorenz Lang, 1727, 1728 and 1736. Fuss and Alexander G. von Bunch, 1830-1831. Hermann Fritsch, 1868-1873. Pavlinov and Z. L. Matusovsky, 1870. Ney Elias, 1872-1873. Nikolai Petivolsky, 1870, 1872 and 1876, 1877. Sosnovsky, 1875. Mikhail V. Pevtsov, 1878. Grigory Patanin, 1877 and 1884, 1886. Bela Sechmiai and Lajos Lochi, 1879, 1880. The brothers Grigory Grumk Shimelo, 1889, 1890, and M.Y. Grigory Grumk Shimelo. Pio Kuzmik Kozlov, 1893, 1894 and 1899, 1900. Vsevolod Roborovsky, 1894. Vladimir Obrashev, 1894, 1896. Karl Joseph Futerer and Dr. Holderer, 1896. Charles Etienne Bonin, 1896 and 1899. Svenhedin, 1897 and 1900, 1901. K. Bogdanovich, 1898. Ladyin, 1899, 1900, and Katsnakov, 1899, 1900. Jack Spolidelsdane and Martha Maley, 1902. 21. See also: Asian dust, Geography of Mongolia, Geography of China, Green Wall of China, List of deserts by area. Mongolian death worm, Olgokholkhoi, said to inhabit the Gobi in Mongolia. Citations: KOSC, 1984. Faruk Elbaz.
Good. That was the Gobi deserts. I will look in the Wikipedia, make some links. I will make some video later in English about deserts. Desert on Earth, but I'll do it in Danish right now. I will start to upload this. I need some time to look the links.